Well, Glenn, thanks for being with HAR today. It's very exciting to have you. For anyone that doesn't know, but I'm sure everybody does, Glen Sanford is the founder of eXp Realty. And we're delighted to have you today. And it looks like you're on your boat.
Yeah, it's the tail end of summer. It's a great way to social distance. So we're enjoying the boating here in the Pacific Northwest. Nice day out here.
Now, is it tied up to your house? I mean, can you just walk out your door and?
Well, actually, it normally is. We're actually in Seattle at the moment. So
okay.
Yeah, but we can walk to the marina from the house, which was nice to be able to do that.
Right. Good for you. That's exciting. That is very exciting. Well, can you tell us how the pandemic has impacted you and eXp?
Yeah, so certainly, we were actually in Australia, Debbie and I, through mid-March. And so we were traveling around the country, visiting some of the agents there. And then, of course, we came back mid-March and pretty much the country shut down. Obviously, working remote, which I've been doing for 10.5 years, the only thing that's really changed is I haven't jumped on a plane, probably 10 or 12 times as I would have expected between March and now. But outside of that, eXp, we had a great Q2. You might have seen our numbers, but we cut back some expenses in late March, early April, because we didn't know how bad the pandemic was going to impact residential real estate. And what it showed was something we always knew internally, was that the eXp model was actually a very, internally a profitable model. So we ended up showing our best net income. We showed about $8 million in profit for Q2, growing about 33% Q2 over Q2. So it was slower growth than we had in January, in the first quarter. But overall, we were some people have said we were built for this. So as a result, we really haven't missed a beat. All of our managing brokers, all of our agents were still able to engage with the brokerage. We're still able to sort of be fully engaged.
Yeah, I remember you being interviewed and someone asking you, how is the transitioning to a work from home work for you? And you said, we've always had that. We're totally virtual. We don't have any offices. Everybody works from home. So
yeah.
Has that benefited you in this pandemic as far as operations and recruiting and so forth?
I think so. Yeah, we've had a couple of our best net agent growth months, even though some agents put their license on ice in May, March, April, May. But we've netted more agents than we've ever netted. Certainly from a staffing perspective, we're able to attract people from anywhere to be able to work with us. But we really haven't seen any true negative impacts to eXp, other than it's now a little harder to show homes. It's a little harder to do some of the activities, but in terms of staying engaged, we've been actually more engaged. We've been doing more classes. We've been doing more sort of things to keep people connected, and so that's actually helped with even the agent growth. So we're now over 33,000 agents now. We started the year with about 24,000. And so, if we just look at that trajectory, it takes us up to, probably close to 40,000 agents by year end.
I know at HAR, we've seen tremendous member engagement, participation like never before. So with virtual training and virtual communications, that we've gone to a virtual publication now, as opposed to anything in print, we've seen amazing engagement. Are you seeing the same thing? And then what kind of tools do you use to train and communicate with your agents?
Well, I think we took you on a couple of different tours of our virtual campus. So, back in 2018, sort of a knock on wood moment, we bought what is presently the most robust virtual world for business platform. And so we've got, numerous tech companies that are now using the platform. We've got, large, universities, that are using it. We've got a number. We've probably landed 200 to 300 new clients since the pandemic hit, just on that side of the business. And so that tool has been really sort of the big tool for creating collaboration and engagement. So I can literally walk down the hall, have conversations with various team members anywhere in the world, without actually leaving my home. So it's pretty cool from that perspective.
So it's interesting, you bought the company, I guess, mainly to educate and do training and conferences for your agents, and realize it's software that could be used by any kind of company. And now you're offering it to, could be restaurants, could be lawyers, could be anybody, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, our big one that we announced a couple months ago was our partnership with HTC. So that's the Taiwanese technology company.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and so they're installing the software on over 1 million business-ready PCs in China. And so, and the stats that they've been doing a lot of data around it, but the virtual or immersive spatial work environments are as close to getting to, in real life engagement as you possibly can get. In fact, what they've found is that some of the studies are showing that employees are more likely to stay in flow if they're working in a virtual world than they are even if they're in face-to-face. So face-to-face, there's the person that walks by and distracts you from your what you're doing. Using the sort of the virtual 3D immersive space, people are able to stay more in flow, on task, and yet at the same time be highly connected.
Being a virtual company, virtual just sort of a way of life for you. We're starting to see, we've always had it to some degree, but we're seeing this disruption, this digital enhancements accelerate greatly due to the pandemic, I think. Things like e-signature. So instead of with a pen, you sign it, DocuSign, let's say.
Yep.
Automated valuations as opposed to having an appraiser actually come out and look at the property. Digital documents. I mean, you go to a closing and they're a foot high. Now it could be all done digitally. Virtual notaries. You had to go find a notary. Now you just go on to Zoom or whatever platform they use, and it's actually safer because you see the person, you have an actual picture of their driver's license. The whole event is recorded. It's not just signing a book. So how do you think, these are working pretty well now just because of the pandemic, but when it's over, do you think this will become the new norm, that consumers will expect this type of
I think so. There'll be some ebb back toward the old norm, and just an initial, people going back to their offices, people sort of going back to their but I think that the trend is still intact, that this is the way we're going. So, when we think about what does the true digital future look like, I think most of us actually have a pretty good vision of what that looks like. And the question is how can we create the best version of that, and how can we be influencers of that? Because I think there's just so many great technologies that are out there. Whether one of the things I was thinking about, even just in advance of our conversation today, was the role that AI is going to take in regard to contract review. Right now, you've got the agents are turning in their contracts. It's going to a managing broker. The managing broker is supposed to review it, and we know that in a high percentage of the cases, maybe it's 20, 25, 30%. Maybe it just goes to an assistant who's really not trained in brokerage to kind of look and check if everything's sort of filled out, and so there's a lot of contracts that aren't being fully reviewed. If you were to put that into an AI process and have an AI review all the contracts, we'd get better contract review than we get right now. So that's another trend that I think is probably going to be, next 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, we're investing in that type of technology because we're processing hundreds of thousands of real estate contracts every year. Well, wouldn't it be good to, catch some of the ones that we're not catching because the human just, sometimes gets lazy.
One of the big issues, I think, and you nailed it, is consistency. If everything was done the same, like with McDonald's, it'd be a different world.
Right.
But not everything is done consistently in our world. Let me ask you about consumer behavior. We're starting to see, I think, a lot of consumer behavior changes, like Instacart instead of going to the grocery store, Amazon instead of going to the mall, Netflix and Amazon Prime instead of going to the theater. I mean, these are just becoming the norm now. But, it was already happening, but now it's really happening due to the pandemic. So in real estate, we're seeing more 3D tours and more virtual showings and more virtual open houses. Do you think those are a flash in the pan, or do you think consumers will get used to them because of the safety and the efficiency and as well as the agent? I mean, their time is much better spent through that.
Right.
Do you think that will catch on, or do you think it'll
I think
go back to the way it was?
Well, I think it's an important component from both an agent and consumer perspective. So when I first got into real estate, I started with a brand called Buyer Tours Realty, and I was literally doing virtual tours for buyers back in 2002. And the whole idea was that consumers would see 30, 40, 50 photos of the home from a buyer's perspective, not the listing agent's perspective, because they're going to show, all the good stuff, but,
Sure.
from that perspective. And so the idea was really to help the consumer really limit the number of choices. So when they came to town, they were only looking at, 2, 3, 4 homes. And then we already knew which one they probably were going to like, but, they had really shortened that list down. I don't think that consumers are going to en masse buy homes online. Like, I just don't.
Right.
So but could it shorten the search cycle? Absolutely.
Narrow it down.
Yeah. And I think that that's the part that's an advantage for an agent, because agents that continue to embrace that are going to get a disproportionate share of the buyer clientele.
Yeah.
Versus the agents that want to do it more traditionally.
Let me ask you, in March, I had never heard of Zoom. Today it's worth over $80 billion. 300,000 people use it every day. Who do you think will be the Zoom of real estate as we go forward?
Yeah, so I think one thing to note is Zoom, has been a profitable company for a long time, and now they've got a ton more customers on. And so one of the things I think that residential real estate has been struggling with, at least from a public company perspective, is there isn't a lot of profitable companies out there right now. So got Zillow losing money, you got Redfin losing money, you got Realgy losing money, and I think Remax might be making some money. We're obviously starting to turn a profit. But I think you can't ignore Zillow. I think
Right.
Zillow, in my opinion, have proven that they're disruptors. They're willing to continue to adapt and continue to make changes.
In closing, let me ask, you're one of the top leaders in the industry. What advice would you have for HAR leaders and members?
I think the sort of goes back to the commentary I made earlier, which is that, the future is going to happen with or without you. So, some of us can, and I've been this way in numerous times in my life as a leader, whereas I'm resistant of certain changes, but the changes are coming whether I like it or not.
Right.
And so the question is do you want to be on the front end and promote the best form of that change, or do you want to, try to keep things sort of slowed down? And so, everybody wants to be part of the most positive version of the future they can possibly be a part of. And the as much as we can actually help make that a change. And I know, obviously, you're probably the epitome of that doing that as you've done at HAR. But, that's, I think, where you need to be.
Glen, I can't tell you how much we appreciate your time. I know you're so busy, But, and I know you want to get out on that boat right now. So thanks again and look forward to seeing you, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Bob.